Hi, I'm Laurie Niles at Violinist.com, and I'm here with the fantastic concert violinist Gil Shaham.
Hi, Laurie. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Gilharmonic on Violinist.com, the happiest hour of violin on the internet.
You know, you don't have to audition to be part of the Gilharmonic. In fact, everybody is welcome. And even you can invite your friends. We would love for you to invite your friends.
We have a great lineup today. We have the young Grant Jensen will be joining us from Santa Monica. We have Faustina Hausner, who will play Bartók for us from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And we have Tessa Lark in the house. Very, very exciting. And yeah, Laurie, this is our third one. How do you feel?
I can't believe it. I feel very inspired, if you ask me. Jason Anick with his jazz violin, that was just amazing. And then last week we had Elena Uriosti, and she was such a fantastic player. I loved hearing her play with her husband. And also she taught us some yoga, and it inspired me to get my yoga mat out this week.
I did the same. I did my finger stretches just like she taught us. And I'm excited for the next ones too. We're gonna have Claire Lee next week, and Roberts Balanas as well. Some of you may know him from his transcription of Elton John for solo violin, and master pedagogue Kurt Sassman's house. And the following week, we're going to have legendary gypsy, Hungarian, jazz, classical violinist Maestro Robi Lakatos, and his entire ensemble will be joining us. Very exciting.
I totally can't wait for that. And if you are watching live on the broadcast, and you have some questions for Gil or for me, please type them into the chat for YouTube or for Facebook. And I think it's time to get started. So our guests are getting ready. And in just a moment, Gil will introduce our first guest.
Our first guest today is a fascinating young man from Santa Monica. He's 10 years old. He's a student of Morgan Gerstmar. He plays in the Santa Monica Elemental Strings Orchestra. He's a fan of JPL and a fan of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. He will play the Martini Gavotte. Grant, take it away.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
You know, that piece is a long one, and it's pretty hard to memorize because it does the same thing a whole bunch of different times, but then it also does different things too. So Grant, you did a really good job of memorizing a rather tricky piece to memorize.
Thank you.
So well done, Grant. I also noticed that you fit the piano, and I know that you're a music lover. We had a little bit of a talk before, and I heard that you bumped into Laurie in the Los Angeles Philharmonic. I heard nobody was hurt. Nobody was hurt. But, you bumped into Laurie, and can you tell us what do you love at the Philharmonic? Why do you go to the LA Phil?
I love that I get to hear the pieces that they play, especially the pieces that they play live, because it's really inspiring for me, because it's like one day if I practice enough, I could become them. And I just love hearing the music.
They are so special. I feel the same.
Well, and there's nothing better than playing in the orchestra. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about playing violin is the chance to play in orchestra. And you play in an orchestra right now, right?
Yeah. The Santa Monica Elemental Strings. It's like for elementary school kids that don't play or do play an instrument in school, and you play. There's a lot of things, but I'm in the strings one.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's great that you have the chance to do that. And you know what you just played here is a gavotte. What do you know about a gavotte?
I know that it's a dance.
Uh-huh.
I know that it's slightly faster than a minuet, but not that much faster.
Yeah, very good.
So really the only things I know about a gavotte.
Well, I have some ideas for you about how you might be able to make it feel kind of even more a little dancey. So are you up for some experimentation here?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing that I think might be kind of fun. If you can lean a little bit on the D there. And so there's a trick though for doing that. And we can practice it on the open strings, but when you lean on it, you don't want to make an accent and make it sound like. So what you do is like you use this much bow for the first note and then like this much for the next one. So you can practice it on an open string, just going. And you just kind of swallow that last note. Why don't you try it? So you're gonna go up, and then just use barely any on the E. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, try it again. Right, so up, down, and then you just do it with the fingers. Yes, yes. I like it. It sounds more dancey already. Try it again. Exactly.
I love that. I love that. You know, now I have a feeling Laurie may have taught this piece before. Now, Grant, now you know how to play the characteristic rhythm of any gavotte. You know, so many gavottes have that rhythm. And not only that, you'll be able to recognize gavottes when you hear them. That's a very characteristic thing, you know. You know, that's a gavotte or you know, you know, I even think you know, you know, that is a very characteristic rhythm. Sometimes they're a little more complicated. So now you will hear gavottes. You'll say, that's a gavotte. Now you'll play a gavotte and you'll say, I know how to play it. I know how to lean on that beat.
Yeah, I never really noticed that pattern before. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, it's a that's gavotte. You know, minuets are in triple time. They're in 3. You can count 1, 2, 3. With gavottes, you count 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. I guess people call it common time.
I wish I knew how to dance a gavotte. Then we could all like learn to dance, but we're not going to actually do that.
I think. Am I right? Maybe your mom knows. She knows historical dance, right?
Yeah, she's a dance professor.
Well, that's wonderful.
Maybe another time we'll ask her about that. You know, I want to very quickly talk to you about something else, because we spoke before, and I feel like you're a very analytical guy, and I feel like you like looking under the hood and figuring out how things work. And so what I wanted to do was maybe really break down these first 8 bars of the Martini Gavotte. And the reason I thought we should talk about it is because this is a very common musical formulation. These 8 bars, people call it a question and answer phrase. I don't know if you've heard that before. You know, the idea is question mark. Period. You know, so the question and then the answer. I guess if you want to be really fancy, if you can call it the antecedent consequent phrase. You know, have you met my antecedent, Laurie? If you go to like a cocktail party, you can talk about, well, the antecedent consequent phrase, and then somebody might look at you and say, aren't you a little bit young to be a music theoretician? You know,
or at a cocktail party.
At a cocktail party. Yes. So I thought that might be interesting. The reason it's interesting is because it changes how you feel about this music, right?
Right.
Well,
and yes, Laurie.
Something I noticed about an answer, like a question and an answer, is that there's always a little bit of the question in the answer, right?
Yes.
So,
right. I mean, in words, right? If I were to say to you, Grant, the Dodgers look really good this year. Do you think they'll make it all the way? Right? And then your answer might be, the Dodgers look good this year. They'll go very far, but they'll never get past the Yankees. Right? So one is a question and the other one is that. But some of the question is contained in the answer, right? And so what I was thinking before was that maybe this has to do with how it feels. And that has to do with the harmony. You know, you start out in G major. That's the chord. And then you move away from it. You move to the chord of D. But the second time around, you start in G. And you end up right back in G. When I was little, people always said, it's like you're at home, you go on a trip. And that's the question part. But the answer is, you're home, you go on a trip, and then you come back home. So it's a different kind of feeling. And I guess, maybe to close this out, do you mind trying to play that first phrase again?
I have an idea. Like one of you could play the question and one of you could play the answer.
I go question.
Okay.
Wait, how come he gets the question?
Because he does. He's our guest.
Wait, but I thought, don't
be a good sport.
All right, and let's do the Gavotte leaning dance move. Okay.
You answered your own question.
I was in the middle. I was like, oh no, this isn't the end. And then
It was, though. No, you were right. You were right.
You did very well, my friend. Yes. Is there something you would like to talk about with us?
Well, I did want to ask you a question.
Okay, go for it.
How did it feel the first time you were on a stage, and have you ever felt that again?
Oh, that's a good question. May I ask, how did you feel? Have you been on a stage before? And,
yeah.
And how did you feel? Was it kind of butterflies in the stomach kind of thing?
It was scared, but I know I can't be scared because that will mess me up.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, I think it's so interesting. People talk about stage fright, you know, and at this point, I've been on stage and pretty much everything wrong that you can imagine, I've done, you know, and, you know, I've sort of lived to tell about it, but I still get nervous when I go up on stage. I think it's a very natural human reaction. And so I don't really know what to say. I've spoken to like surgeons, you know, and I ask them, you know, do you get nervous when you have somebody on the operating table? And, you know, many of them say no. Many of them say they don't get nervous, but they do get nervous when there's an audience. So I think there's something about humans that once we're being watched, we get nervous because, you know, we want to be judged a certain way. We want to be somehow, it's a very natural feeling. And I think that's important to know. It's a very natural feeling. And in a way, maybe you can use that feeling to your advantage. You know, that's part of the excitement. Some people love that feeling. I don't know. What do you say, Laurie?
I think you said it very well. And this has been so fun. Grant, it's been so fun to work with you. And I can't wait to see you when everything starts up again and we can all go to the LA Phil and maybe we'll go see Gil. Maybe he'll come back and play the barber like he was going to.
Come back. I was going to see that.
Thank you. So good to meet you. Yeah, I hope we meet in person soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next guest is Faustina Hausner, and she just finished her freshman year at Rice University's Shepherd School of Music, studying with Kathleen Winkler. She also studied before that with Ellen D. Pasquale. She is coming to us from New Jersey, and she's going to play for us selections from Béla Bartók's Rumanian Folk Dances. done.
Yes, Faustina Hausner. I love that. I love that. I really enjoy your playing, Faustina. You're such a thoughtful player. You have a beautiful tone. You play so cleanly. And I got a kind of a weird, funny story to tell. Just that when I heard you were going to play these pieces, I remembered being like an 8-year-old kid in Jerusalem, 8 or 9 years old. And a lot of people were playing the Romanian dances. I think pianists were playing these Romanian dances. And I just heard this word over and over again, Jokubata. Somehow this word was in my head. I was like, Jokubata, and like I had no idea what it meant. But just now when I saw you were going to play that, I was thinking, Jokubata. And I guess, do you mind telling us what that means?
Well, that's the first dance, right?
Right.
Yeah, the first dance. It translates to dance with sticks. And Bartók actually first heard this dance played by 2 gypsy violinists. And it's a very energetic and merry song where the dancers are dancing in a circle and they have walking sticks and they exchange sticks and they tap sticks on downbeats. And it's a really energetic dance.
I wish I could see that. I wish I could see you doing that while you're playing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about there's several dances here. Can you tell us a little more about what the dances are?
Yeah, the second movement is because it's a waistband dance, and it's more of a spinning dance. And the dance itself uses sashes and waistbands as a visual prop. And it has a very mischievous and playful character. And the fourth movement is a hornpipe dance. And it has a lot of Arabic influence because of the augmented second intervals. And Bartók also heard this as a gypsy violin piece. And the fifth movement is a Romanian polka, or it's also known as a children's dance, which goes directly into the last movement, which is the quick dance, which is performed by couples. And it's often danced as a courting dance, and it consists of fast, tiny steps. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so have you, when you were studying this, did you listen to various recordings? I know that Gil made a recording of this back 20 years ago, but it was very alternative, right? It was.
You know what? It's a very nice memory. I was with Dave Grusin and Lee Rittenauer, and I think it was Dave Grusin's idea. He just loves this piece, and he made this arrangement, and I got to meet 2 fascinating, incredible masters of music. And I think the album was called 2 Worlds, or Clash of 2 Worlds. I think it was called 2 Worlds. And it was really a very nice memory for me.
Kind of jazzy, crossover. Yeah. Faustina, tell us what ones that you listen to and that kind of thing.
I've actually listened to a recording by Tessa Lark, who will also be on this computer today.
Yes.
Right. We're going to see her later. Everybody stay tuned for Tessa Lark. Right now, we're talking to Faustina Hausner about the Bartók Romanian dances.
Yeah, and I really love
that recording.
Yeah, I loved her character, the carefree gypsy spirit she really brought to the table, personality, the style. I just loved that performance. Yeah, I constantly referred to it, and it was very inspiring to me when I was studying this piece. Yeah.
Am I wrong? Wasn't this whole thing started with a recording device?
Well, I think that Bartók and Kodály, they went across Romania making recordings. They made something like 1,000 recordings, and I'm not sure what they used because it was something like 1915 or something. And they used, he used these folk dances that he recorded for many things. Among them this. So that's pretty cool.
I remember hearing a Hungarian gypsy band perform, and they were playing they played a thing, just one sort of very, there's such a rich history. This is the kind of stuff that's passed down from parents to their babies, and then the babies grow up and pass it down to their own. But they were playing. It was really like I was amazed because it was note for note the second Rhapsody of Bartók,
Wow.
but it actually played much faster than I was used to hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's very
and that,
interesting.
you know, and it's got those compressed like ba-da-da, ba-da-da.
Oh, yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you talk about that a little bit, Gil?
Sure. Faustina, I guess I was wondering, Leon Fleischer, who is one of the great pianists, he has these aphorisms, very short, concise statements about music that he likes to say. So he says things like, good rhythm is playing everything late, but on time, you know?
Yeah.
and he'll say things like, short notes need to always be shorter, and long notes need to always be longer. And I guess, you know, even Ysaÿe, and I never know how to say his name, but the violinist who made these arrangements, I don't know if you ever heard his recording of the second concerto of Bartók. He does compress those 16ths quite a lot. You know, he you know, and so I guess I was wondering if, just for fun, would you consider trying that first dance and, you know, really compress all that stuff? Something like that.
Yeah. I could try it.
Go for it. Go for it. You know, I loved that the short notes were that short. I think they could be even shorter, but that was great. Now, can you do just one more time and make sure the long notes are super long? All right. You go.
Ooh, it sounds really Hungarian. Can I talk a little bit about my favorite part of this piece? For me, it's the last movement, and to me, the last movement is like, it just, you have to do it with such abandon. You know, it all comes down to, it has to be like, go as fast as you can and make as much noise as you possibly can.
Yes.
And you know, it makes me think of like my kids, my little kids, when they were little, we used to do this thing where we would run down a grassy hill, and I would say, just like, let gravity take you, you know, and you know, you just go as fast as you can, and then your legs can barely keep up with you, you know, and then if you fall down, you're laughing when you fall down. But so, like, I was thinking, you have your act together so well with this last piece. I wondered, like, if you could try it like twice as fast. No, I'm sort of kidding there, but like just like as fast as you possibly can, and then make a lot of, just, you know, like sort of let go, and like you're running down the hill kind of thing.
I could try it.
It's a fun experiment here.
Wow.
Go.
I really want to use the word verbunkos. Can I say verbunkos?
Okay, he wants to use this word.
I really want to use the word. Do you know the word verbunkos?
No, I don't.
It's kind of fun to say, but I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. But I guess it's Hungarian, and verbunkos comes from the German Werbung. And what people often talk about with Bartók is the verbunkos style, which is a recruiting dance. And what they say is, a lot of this stuff, even the whole Czardas tradition, comes from these recruiting dances where the military, if you can imagine, very war-torn part of Middle Europe, the military would come marching to town with these, and they always start slow, lasso and frisk, slow and then fast. They always start with the minor scale melody, very much like here, and it would get faster and faster, and they'd whip themselves into a frenzy, and then by the time they finished, they will have taken all the young men of the village with them, and off they go to war, or off they go to the next town to repeat, the Ferbunkosh, to do, the slow dance, and then and I guess all these things, are called Ferbunkosh. The contrast, the first movement, the violin concerto. That's it. Now I use the word Ferbunkosh. Now, do you mind finishing the movement where I rudely interrupted you?
Oh, finishing. Okay.
Yeah, send it. All right, I'm ready to join. I'll join. Well done.
Brava.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Faustina.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
It's fun to
We
hear.
love having you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was such a great experience, and it's truly an honor. Yeah.
For us. Thank you.
I'm so happy to welcome our next guest, Tessa Lark. I first met Tessa Lark when she was playing in the Indianapolis competition back in 2014, and most recently when she was playing as a soloist with the Pasadena Symphony here in California. Right now, she's going to be coming at us from New York City. She was recently nominated for a Grammy for her performance of the Sky Concerto by Michael Torke. It's sort of a bluegrass violin concerto written especially for her. And she's also been posting Fritz on Friday, works by Fritz Kreisler, and she's going to be creating a recording called Stradgrass, and we're going to have to ask her about that. So right now, she's going to play Ysaÿe's Fourth Sonata with a little bit of improv to lead us into it. Tessa, take it away.
Tessa Lark, everybody. We are so lucky. Thank you for that performance. Man, that was great.
I mean,
Ysaÿe.
You know what? It
Thank you
reminds,
so much. Whew.
it reminds me of like what I love about this instrument. You know, I like. It's been so many years of playing, and then I've listened to something like you playing this, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it just that piece has so much range, and then you just really captured it beautifully.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. That's why I love Ysaÿe, though. Exactly what you're saying is his music is so violinistic. As difficult as it is, once you figure it out, it just feels so good, right? To play those things, and you get to sing too at the same time. It's just everything.
I gotta ask, because while you were playing, I was thinking that Ysaÿe is kind of loosely based on music by another great master, Fritz Kreisler. And you added your own improvisation before. Am I correct in saying your improvisation was loosely based on the works of Ysaÿe?
Yes, very much. So all I did was I was basically inspired by that theme from the Sarabande, the second movement, this motif, which clearly from this sonata is very versatile and flexible because he just uses it all over the darn place, especially in that last movement. So I was inspired by the Sarabande, but because today I wanted to play the last movement, I just decided to improvise a little bit with the opening material. So I just kind of put it all together. But Ysaÿe seems to be this kind of guy, and supposedly he wrote all of these 6 sonatas, overnight. And so it seems that he was just kind of going with his imagination. So I just took the liberty. I felt like it might be appropriate to improvise on it a little.
I love that. I love that.
I'm just totally astonished by your ability to improvise. I know that when you were playing with the Pasadena Symphony, so she finishes playing, she does this like an encore and starts singing, you know, and then as she's exiting the stage, she turns around and laughs and sort of says to the orchestra, because I was back there in the second violin, she goes, I didn't know I was going to sing. And I thought, okay, I would definitely have to know I was going to sing. How do you do this, Tessa?
Well, we should mention that Laurie is a member of the Pasadena Symphony.
Well,
right?
yeah, I
As
know.
a violinist, so you guys were on, sharing the stage. Yeah.
It was
so
fun.
Yeah, such a small, because meeting you, you know, it's basically 5 years before that, right? And then seeing you in the orchestra and getting to play together is so fun. But for me, you know, when you're as disorganized and as I am, you know, and you have as many ideas as I do, yeah, you feeling me, Gil? Just you have to learn how to improvise. There's just no other, like, I'm not going to get anything done unless I know how to just fly by the seat of my pants. So it was out of sheer desperation that I figured out how to improvise and just wing it.
Well, I know we don't have much time, sadly, but I did want to ask you about your life as a double agent, you know, as a spy, as a classical violinist spy in the world of bluegrass, and at the same time as an infiltrator of bluegrass into the world of classical music. But you do wear those two hats, and tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Kentucky. My dad actually plays banjo, not by profession, but he's real good. And so there's a lot of bluegrass on my front porch, my Kentucky home. I played mandolin before I played the violin. So that was really part of my upbringing. And then my formal training was with the Suzuki method. And my teacher, Catherine McGlasson, supplemented my Suzuki training with fiddle books and fiddle tunes. So it was always put together for me. And I decided early on in my training that this was something that I always wanted to hold on to, because it was something very dear to me, this bluegrass and improvised American music. So it was just a very natural succession for me. I went to New England Conservatory, but they have these great contemporary improvisation classes for non-majors, and I was always sort of sticking my toes in all these different pools of music. That sounds a little gross, but it was awesome, I promise. And and so I you know, was primarily trained in classical music, but there's just something so magical about folk music, and I had a hunch that there was a lot of folk inspiration in the music I was playing too. So I started going undercover and classified, like you said, Gil, and just sort of went into the bluegrass world, sometimes in the classical world, and slowly I've been trying to figure out a way to make the big reveal and bring them both together. So that's been my mission lately.
So that brings me to a big question, which is, what is Stradgrass? What is this?
I do believe they're legalizing it in the state of New York now. Is that
Thank goodness?
Am I right about that?
Soon it will
I
be
gave
everywhere.
you a little secret stash of mine, Gil, earlier on, but now it is legalized, and symptoms include toe tapping and yodeling like vocals.
Awesome.
And plaid shirts.
And plaid shirts, indeed. But Stradgrass, you know, I am actually from the Indianapolis competition where we met. I got the silver medal. Usually that Strad, the X-King Gold Strad they have, is delegated to the first prize winner. But I got to use it for 4 years and abuse it with bluegrass. And so when I started playing bluegrass on the Strad, my now fiance at the time was my boyfriend. We were jamming together, and he's like, "Oh, Strad and bluegrass, Stradgrass." So it was just kind of off the cuff, but I ran with it, and it's become a way of life for me, just exploring American folk styles from a classical lens.
I have a feeling.
Before we go, I want to ask you about Sky, because I really dig that, and I heard that recording, and I encourage everybody out there to have a listen. I thought it was fascinating and beautifully done, and
Thank you so much. I hope you play it sometime. You'd play it
I would love that. Yeah.
gorgeously. Oh my gosh, and Torke would be thrilled. I commissioned Michael for a sonata for a recital, and through that collaboration, he asked if I would play a concerto were he to write one, and could it be bluegrass inspired. He hadn't known anything about bluegrass at that time and just immersed himself for a year, and then this concerto came to be, and it's so fun. My management, Marianne Ciolino, and Michael's publicist, they did so much to make a consortium of orchestras that came together to make the commission possible. So I think I've played it with 11 or 12 orchestras so far. So it's been a lot of fun.
Wow. I have a feeling, Tessa, that your work is going to actually make this Stradgrass thing come true, that we might see, some really serious, very nice cross-pollination of a wonderful form of American music with classical music. And thank you so much for joining us today and playing for us. This has been just a total treat.
Oh, thank you so much. This is such a beautiful hour, and it's just making me so, I can't, my smile is plastered on my face. It just brings so much joy.
I'm
so
so
thank
happy
you.
to meet you. Yeah.
It's great to meet you too. Yeah, from what? We're just 90 blocks away.
I know, we're actually very close, right? We're
Yeah.
both New Yorkers, but here we are connecting through StreamYard.
Who knew? Who knew when I listened to your recordings growing up, age 12, that I'd meet you here on the screen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
What a joy. What a joy to be with Tessa Lark.
And no kidding. Gil, do you think
maybe we'll bump into each other on Broadway, someplace here in Gotham City. Maybe we'll meet each other in person. I'd heard so much about Tessa before.
Do you think she would teach us a fiddle tune if we asked her to? I mean, wouldn't that be cool?
I would be there in a second. I'd sign up for a 4-semester course if I could.
Okay, well, I'm going to see if she'll do that. And if we make it happen, we will post a video about that tomorrow, okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. I guess, Laurie, I feel like I saw a question come by.
Yes, I think they wanted to ask you what that A word was that Grant is supposed to say at cocktail parties.
The cocktail. And so antecedent consequent phrases. I'm sure, if you put it into Google, you'll come up with many articles about this. It's a very basic musical structure and something very primal. You'll find it in all genres of music and maybe has something really basic to do with human psychology, antecedent consequent.
Okay. And then I think we had another question, and that question was from Susan Claffey from Grand Junction, Colorado. Okay, and so here was her question. She said, if most concerts and symphony seasons are canceled for the fall season, then how do you stay motivated to practice for nothing? Is it because that's what you've been doing your whole life? Or are you hopeful that things are going to open in the spring of 2021? Because that's a long time away. So how do you stay motivated, basically?
It's such a good question, and it's tough to answer. I feel like, yes, there are goals. It's always good to have goals, right? Like if you say in 1 month, I want to lose that much weight, but I don't think of practicing as dieting, in fact, maybe it was about 15 years ago. I remember being in a hotel room in Israel, and I was jet lagged, and I had somehow a lot of time, and I just took out the violin and practiced for the sake of practicing. I imagine it's kind of like, do the pro basketballers only practice when, to play on the season, or do they just love to play basketball? I don't know, something like that. I don't really have a well-formed answer, but something along those lines. What would you say, Laurie?
Well, it's something that we can actually do during this time. We're actually very lucky that we can get out our violins and play and, be close to Bach and just, anything that brings us kind of closer to humanity right now. I think it's a good idea.
in my house, everybody's practicing more somehow these days. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, what drives it. But
And you can practice whatever you want to. You don't just have to practice. You don't have to scrub away at the little passage that you need for the orchestra concert or
right.
the next thing. You can actually take a little time and think so.
Right. It's have to and want to, right?
Yeah. Well, so it's been a wonderful episode of Gilharmonic once again. And we're going to have to go because, Gil, you've got something going on.
I was just going to say, before we wrap it up, I want to mention that I guess beginning in a couple of minutes, Adele Anthony, my wife, and I will be part of a virtual gala for a group that means a great deal to me, the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. I believe we have links below and links on Violinist.com.
Yes.
And yes, please, thank you for supporting the Israel Philharmonic. I can't wait to the next one, Laurie.
Yeah, I can't either. And we've got some wonderful guests. First of all, we've got Kurt Sassman's the fantastic violin master teacher. We have Robert's Baliness, and you guys have probably seen his Elton John recording, which is so cool. So he's going to be there. And then we have a student named Claire Lee. So please don't miss us. And I'll tell you how not to miss us. Sign up for subscribe to Violinist.com's YouTube channel, and please like our Facebook pages on Violinist.com and Gil Shaham. And we will see you next week for Gilharmonic on Violinist.com.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, Tessa. Thank you, all our guests.